Hello, my name is Chris Keyack, and I'm a steel construction technology consultant and trainer. And today we're going to be showcasing member pins in SDS2. And this is a great feature to help you with like sloping steel, or if you want to stretch and move some steel that is bound to a specific grid line that needs to move. This is a great feature for that. So let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so one of the most powerful use cases of member pins is if you have a roof slope change and you say you originally modeled the roof flat, you got a design change in and the elevations changed, or you had modeled the roof in sloping and then elevations have changed and you want to quickly update your roof geometry. Here I'm just going to quickly demonstrate how this can be used. If I come in here and just change the elevation of this column here at the center, and you'll see here that we're going to only change this column, but all of the geometry of the girders that we're framing into that column, as well as all the secondary beams, are now following that slope appropriately. So if I rotate around here, rather than me having to go through each of these members and remodel them to intersection of construction line and member, or to manually change their elevations, essentially I was able to just quickly change the elevation at the grid line with the column and everything followed suit. Now let's go ahead and actually showcase how I did this. Okay, so the first thing to see here is that we've got our member pins towards the ends of the members in the model. And right now you can currently see that the color of these pins are sort of a maroon color. And if I select on one, then right click and say edit, we'll see here that this basically signifies that this member pin is disabled on this end. And so I'm going to go ahead and showcase this in the project settings so that way you can see where this is set up. So if we come in here, we'll go into project settings, we'll go underneath job, modeling, and then we will go to member pins. Now inside of here, there are three different types of member pins. You can see the colors for each and you can set those. If you leave those defaulted, sort of like a green color will be system, a tan color will be user, and then that maroon looking color will be the disabled. And the reason why I'm also showing you this is because by default in SDS2, member pins are disabled. And that's what this checkbox is covering here. So when you have this checked in your settings, and then you go back into the model, and as you model in all the framing, you're going to see that all of these are this color and they're disabled by default. Now, the reason why this probably is because usually you turn on member pins when you're trying to do some specific modification, like sloping the roof, like in the case that we're doing here, or you're going to move a grid line, or you're going to change a whole floor elevation. And so essentially this is off by default, and you more turn it on or enable it when you want to. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I want to just quickly be able to select pins without selecting other stuff. So I'm going to go down here on the bottom of SDS2 and I'm going to go and choose member ends. So that way when I window around, only member ends are selected. Now, one thing that you're going to want to do is if you're actually trying to do a really large change or if just a specific area, what I can do is I can window around all of the member pins in the model, and you can see that they're all highlighted. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually press the delete key on my keyboard, and that's going to turn every one of these member pins white. And basically what that signifies is that there is no member pin set. And so if I come in here and I select on one of these and press edit, you'll see that neither the disabled, user, and there's nothing in this list here. So white basically means that no member pins have been set. Now the first use case that I'm going to show here is I'm going to actually take this member pin on the column and I'm going to right click and I'm going to do a user member pin. So if I go to edit, I then have the add button here. And now I'm going to go ahead and say to other members end. And I'm just going to go ahead and say OK. And now here it's saying at the lower left hand corner of SDS2 to select the ends to restrain. So I'm just going to go ahead and hold down shift and select each of these member ends for the beams. And then once I'm all done, I'll right click and say OK. And now we can see that essentially basically this member pin has been added to this specific end. Now you'll also notice that the color has changed to this light tan or yellow color, which is essentially signifying that this is user. So again, if I edit this, you'll see that this is checked for the user option. Now, the reason why I did this is because when I changed the elevation of this column, I essentially want all of the beams, these girders framing into it to follow suit with it. Now, the next thing I'm going to showcase is actually auto pins. So I'm just going to rotate around a little bit here. And I'm going to select all of these pins on the roof level. So let me just rotate a little bit. So I'll get here, And then let's actually also get these pins here and these pins. So I have every one of the pins all set except for these pins that I manually did with the user pins. All right, so with that all being selected, I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose the auto pins option. And so once I do that and it's done calculating those, then essentially what I can do is I can start to just go into different areas of the model, and you'll see that the member pins are now no longer white, but they're actually this system color. So if I select on one of these and right click and say edit, you'll actually see the member pins here inside of the list. And actually when you hover over them, they will highlight in the model as well. And so what's interesting is that there are two separate pins here. First is the member plane. And so essentially what that means is that if this girder slopes, really the beam is going to be bound or restricted to that vertical web plane there. And that's actually what I want. I want the beam to stay in its plan location, but I want it to move up and down in elevation based on the slope of the girder. And so we're all set with that. And then the other member is basically saying that, hey, okay, this beam here is following the elevation or top flange in the member line of this beam that it's framing into. So we've got that set. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just go over to this column. We'll change our selection back to default, so we can just select on this member. I'm then going to change this here to say 16 foot 0. And then I only want to change this column. And you'll notice that all of the geometry has basically been changed. So what's great about this is instead of manually going through and trying to edit each one of those elevations, I essentially have this whole roof slope done fairly quickly. And I don't have to do any individual calculations for all of these sub beams for these openings here. Essentially, all I do is I take the control line at the grids and those elevations, which are usually listed on plan. I go ahead and change that, and then all of the subordinate geometry that's part of that framing plan will then update. This video today is sponsored by SDS2 by Allplan. SDS2 is a comprehensive detailing as well as connection design software, and you can visit their website and learn more at sds2.com. If you found this content useful, please subscribe to our channel and press the alerts button to be notified when we upload new content.